Hey everybody, it's Mike Sampson from ScreenCrush.com along with our film critic Matt Singer. We just got back from a screening of Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Or should I say Batman v Superman? Are we
Yes,
doing that?
you should.
Batman v Superman.
That's how they say it.
Dawn of Justice, and we're here to talk in very spoilerish details about the film, what we saw, and what we thought of it. Okay, so we both agree that this movie is not very good, but let's get into some of the questions that we've had after we posted our reviews and some thoughts on Twitter. We've got a lot of questions, so we're going to go through a lot of these. And I think one of the big ones that we got was that first trailer or second trailer that came out. A lot of people criticized it for being very spoilery. Would you?
This is the one with Doomsday and Wonder
Right,
Woman.
that this gave away the whole movie. Would you
Right.
agree that that trailer is heavy on the spoilers, or is there really something that they're kind of holding back that you'll still see in this movie?
But no, that really is the big climactic
Yeah.
final fight. And when you see the movie, it's pretty surprising to me that they did reveal Doomsday and the fact that that was this big, huge
That was the plan he's
fight.
working
That
on.
yeah, or the thing that brings Batman and Superman together ultimately.
Yes, but I mean, a lot of the film is sort of this mystery of what Lex is up to and what he's doing with this Kryptonian DNA
Right.
and the ship. And
But we know
You
the whole
know.
time because we've seen
exactly,
the trailer
which is
and
very
we
sort
know.
of disappointing that you're kind of going in and then you're thinking, does Doomsday sort of transform into the monster? You know, the big.
With the rocks and
Well,
the
you
the
sort
bones.
of see that, but I mean, that character, that version is in the trailer. There's no sort of uber Doomsday
Right.
that comes at the end. It's just sort of that same glob of.
There's very little surprises, and Doomsday is just a big CGI plop who looks like the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk
Sure.
movies, who punches things. He has no motivation. He can't speak. I mean,
Right.
in a sense, it's faithful to the Doomsday of the Death of Superman storyline, right? Who was just this agent of chaos and destruction. But I mean, there are parts of it that are kind of cool looking,
Sure.
but from a dramatic standpoint, it is very anticlimactic.
So we know that Justice League is coming out next. They start shooting in 2 weeks or whatever. And you do see a lot of, I don't want to say Easter eggs because they're very overt. They're not hidden anywhere.
part of the movie.
There are some very overt, although very confusing teases to Justice League. What do you make of those and where do you think this is going to go in part one and part two?
Again, the way that they handled the teasing, I thought was clumsy and frustrating because really that scene you're referring to where they sort of tease this future, and it's not. I mean, it ends up being we think a dream sequence is.
Right.
Or I don't know, a hallucination. Who knows what it's supposed to be? He wakes up from it at the end of it.
Right.
But it's really the first scene in the movie where we really see Batman in action. I thought that
Right.
was so strange. The first time we see Batman really kicking butt is a scene in a desert on maybe or another planet. It has the Omega symbol on the ground.
It looks like it's some
probably
sort of
is
dystopian
apocalypse.
Earth where
Right.
Superman is, some sort of.
Right. Could be apocalypse. It could be Earth that's been destroyed by Darkseid,
Right.
whatever. But Batman's got a cloak and he's in his desert toy gear,
right.
So, and there are soldiers with Superman logos, and then there's this really long take where he takes on this whole army of guys, and it's really cool. But you're going, what is happening
Right.
here? Because there's been no setup to it beforehand. People who have never read DC Comics and don't know about the Fourth World and Jack Kirby and Darkseid are going to be completely
Way
lost
confused.
by what all that was.
You and I are huge comic book fans, and there are parts of this movie where even I was like, what is
Yeah.
going on?
There's a lot of scenes in this movie that feel out of order or just kind of shoved in places.
Poorly edited.
And it doesn't flow smoothly. And that's one of them where I remember when that scene started, I was like, wait,
happening?
did we miss a reel of the movie? Did we jump ahead?
Right.
Presumably, what we're going to get in Justice League is some sort of battle between the Justice League and this character Darkseid, who they don't mention by name, but is
Right.
clearly who they're alluding to based on some of the things we see, including that big Omega symbol in the desert. We're not really sure if that Earth after it's been destroyed in some sort of apocalypse, or maybe that's actually the planet Apocalypse, not spelled the same way, but this character Darkseid, who's this big mean alien god. He's basically Thanos for the DC universe.
Sure.
He lives on a planet named Apocalypse with a K, and maybe we're there, but probably it's Earth that's been colonized by
Right, it
Apocalypse.
looks earthy. There's skyscrapers in the background.
Right.
It
So
looks
let's say
like
it's Earth that's
Right.
been colonized by Darkseid, by his forces. So it seems like it's a dream sequence in the mind of Bruce Wayne, but
Yes.
it also seems like it's maybe a potential vision of a dark future.
So now another thing we see is Bruce Wayne has that vision, and at the end of the Darkseid vision, there's another one where it looks like somebody's sort of popping out of the multiverse to sort of warn him about something.
Something.
Do we know who that is, and what does that mean
It sort of looks like the Flash, but not the Flash that we see later in the movie.
Right.
And it's not really clear who it is or what he's talking about. It most resembles, from the comics, the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, which is this huge 12-issue series that rearranged the entire DC universe in the 1980s. It's this classic story. It's a great book.
Right.
But in that storyline, the Flash, at one point, to save the universe, does something. And in the process, his sort of like, his essence, his spirit, his ghost, whatever you want to call it, sort of like bounces through the universe and appears to people at all these different times.
Right.
So that's what it seems like it is. It seems like a tease of some sort of crisis or a version of that crisis story. Kind of the way they did the death of Superman in Batman vs. Superman in a slightly different way.
And now Zack Snyder has also been talking publicly about the multiverse, so you would think that this is all coming together, although it's surprising that they're doing a multiverse and not including any of the Flash characters that are on TV.
The TV DC.
It would be a great way to kind of work all that in,
Right.
but it doesn't seem like they're wanting to work all that in because of tone issues. But so yeah, it would seem like there's Darkseid, there's Crisis on Infinite Earth. They're all sort of working together. Combine those things, and that's sort of where this is going in the future. You would think.
All right, let's talk about how they set up Justice League in this movie. There's a fair amount of teasing, and it's
Right.
not very subtle.
It does feel just sort of dropped in right
Yes.
in the middle of the movie.
Right. First, there's these computer files that Lex Luthor has.
Sure.
He's mentioned already the metahumans.
Right.
He alludes to them in a conversation with another character. Then we see this data that Bruce Wayne has stolen, and it has these files in it. And each file has conveniently the logo of the hero, so we know exactly who they are before we see anything about
Also
them.
conveniently named metahumans.
Right. Bruce Wayne is looking through these files, and at first it seems like that's all we're going to see, a very oblique tease. Just the symbols, just the sense that, okay, these people exist, they're out there. But then later in the movie, right before the big fight between Batman and Superman, the whole movie stops.
Yes.
While Wonder Woman now has these files, and she looks through each one, and she watches each one, and it's like a 5-minute sequence where they show footage of each of the characters. So you want to go through that and who we see?
Sure. I mean, first, even though Wonder Woman is in this movie for a significant amount of time,
She's
there's
the
a
one looking at
There's a
this.
file on her, and
Right.
all we really see, there's a picture of her from the Wonder Woman movie back in the
Right.
1930s.
1918, it says on the
1918,
photo.
sure. And Chris Pine is there.
Yeah.
And they do a slow zoom on that a couple times where it's like,
oh
hey,
my
look.
God, she's been
Right.
alive for 100 years.
And she's in full Wonder Woman
Battle
regalia,
armor.
and Chris Pine is next to her. But that's all you see, just that
It very
photo.
much evokes the first Captain America movie.
Yes.
And
I
it
would
looks
agree.
pretty cool, I have
Yeah,
to say.
it's like a black and white, sort of grainy, sepia tone photo.
But the idea being she's been around all this time. What has she been up to?
Right.
Kind of cool.
Yes, and then Wonder Woman later, in the most boring way possible, Wonder Woman is just sitting at her MacBook, clicking through one by one. She just goes through. I'm going to click on Flash. Flash comes up. There's surveillance camera footage of a gas station robbery. Ezra Miller is there looking like a stoner, going for
Very long
Gatorade
hair,
at 4 in the morning.
hoodie, does not look like the Flash or a hero at all.
Right, so somebody goes to rob the register. He just zips over, stops him, zips right
Right.
back to the refrigerator, and that's the entirety of that footage.
It's like Peter Parker's origin from The Amazing Spider-Man if he never was a jerk and didn't learn a lesson. He just
Right.
saved it and this
There was
went
a-
on.
there we go.
There we go.
And then the next one we see is the Aquaman logo. There is some sort of James Cameron-like vessel that is filming a wreck that is sunken at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And out pops Aquaman, and he just goes, right. And he's just there. He looks angry because he's pointing his trident at the camera.
Right.
And it's just,
Keep waiting for him to do something, and it takes him a very long time to do anything.
except at the end, he just sort of rockets off in the water.
Stabs the guy, or who knows? He
Swings
does
the
something with his
trident,
trident,
right.
and then there's a wide shot of him kind of zooming off.
Taking off.
Yeah.
And then the next one is
Cyborg.
Cyborg, who is in a lab. It's sort of, it may be his father. That was sort of what they alluded to.
I mean, that's what it is in the comics. We'll
Right.
just assume that
They're
that's
in
who it is.
Star Labs. There's a sort of torso hanging behind him, and he's working on.
Technology, something, and he's got this very weird-looking cube that's undulating and
Yes.
swirling.
And then at the end, it all starts fusing together to form
Right.
some half man, half.
To make Cyborg.
Right, exactly. And that's really it. Wonder Woman looks at this stuff. She doesn't really say anything about it or comment
Right,
on it.
she has no opinion about it. She's
She's
just
like,
kind of
"Oh,
blankly looking at it. And
all
then at
right."
the end of the movie, after Superman is dead, they have a talk, Batman and Wonder Woman, and they're like, we have to bring these people together to fight, and they're not going to have a choice, and they're going to have to, and blah 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 blah.
It is worth noting that the Justice League do not show up in this movie in
No.
any other way, shape,
That's
or
it.
form.
My big beef with it was, though, they put it at the end of the movie. You've waited 2 hours for the big fight.
Yeah.
And as it's about to happen, there's literally like a 3-4 minute sequence where everything stops so Wonder Woman can click on each of these things.
Another big question everybody's been asking about is the end of the movie. There's supposedly this big cliffhanger, which there is, although it's
Again, spoiler alert,
right.
there
I don't
is.
know how much of a cliffhanger this really is, but at the end of the movie, we find out that Superman dies in his battle with Doomsday. Dies.
Right.
We'll use that word very loosely because they start filming Justice League in about 2 weeks. So were you surprised that they went there?
I just thought that the surprising thing was Superman is such a minor character in this movie.
In his own
In his own movie, in his own sequel to Man of Steel,
Right.
it's really much more of a Batman movie.
Right.
And maybe a Lex Luthor movie. And a movie about the idea of Superman, which is one of the things that I think could have been really great about it, is it is a lot about this person. If this person existed who had all this power, what would he do and how would society react to him? Like, that might have meant something. But the whole movie is people talking about Superman, kind of like he's Poochie. And then at the end, he sort of goes off to his home
own
planet,
planet, right.
essentially, by dying. And it's just like the movie's sort of presentation of how the world views Superman doesn't make any sense.
So the movie's not that great. We didn't think that much of it. There is no post-credit scene. It's not necessarily a long movie, but it feels long. I mean, Avengers.
is a long movie. It's
Well, Avengers
150
was
minutes.
almost this long, and Avengers.
It feels a lot longer than
It
Avengers.
feels a lot longer than those movies. Yes, it is. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes.
All the excitement really is backloaded to the last 40 minutes.
Meanwhile, they're making a director's cut with 30 minutes of additional footage. I cannot possibly imagine this movie being 30 minutes longer. So that's what you need to know going into Batman vs. Superman if you wanted to completely spoil yourself, or if you came out of it and you wanted to know a little bit more about it. This is everything you need to know. We'll have much more on our website, screencrush.com. I'm Mike Sampson. This is Matt Singer. We'll see you next time.